Welcome back to the Dark Side of Life. I would like to thank everyone who's come back to see this video. If you saw the first video, it's pretty much about what this channel is going to be about. This video is going to be about myself. I feel before I start talking about certain things and giving advice on things and trying to help where I can, it's probably best that people know who I am and why I am qualified to talk about these things. And the only way you're going to know who I am is if I go into my past. Again, I'm not going to talk about my name. I'm not going to give any personal information, mostly because we still live in a world where people who struggle from mental illness do get persecuted, even if they're at a point in their life where they have control of themselves. Good example is the word being psycho that gets thrown around with people not understanding what it fully means and how offensive it can be. So without further ado, let's go into it. None of this is scripted. It's all straightforward. So, I suffer from borderline personality 1 and 2 disorder. Well, now it's just called borderline personality disorder, but before it was axis 1 and 2 personality disorder. In short, I have signs of, I get depression, suicidal tendency, godlike complex, whatever you say it. Pretty much, my emotions are a whirlwind. And my emotions can change instantaneously, where just one thing can set me off. It's something that, when you can't control it, is very damaging to your life. And something where, if you're completely out of control, you will need medicine to help control yourself. However, you do get to a point where if you actively work at it and make good decisions in life, you can wean off medication. However, it's a very difficult lifestyle you must live if you decide to go that route. I did used to be suicidal. I've actually attempted suicide 3 times. And when I mean I attempted suicide, I will get into each of those suicides in this video. Now, I know YouTube doesn't like the word suicide, but the fact is suicide exists. And unless we understand why do people do it? We cannot fix it. We cannot help it. We cannot see it coming. And I really want people to be able to see it coming. It recently started coming back to me, a lot of things, and I felt driven to make a channel where I talked about these things because I was lucky. I survived when I shouldn't have. So I'm not going to go to the majority of my attempts. I'm going to go to my most serious attempt. Mostly because the other attempts was a sign of weakness, and it was typically, just me kind of giving up on life due to just being weak. And that can be a case with suicide at times. But I think my second attempt is the most important one, and probably the biggest life-changing, and one of the reasons I want to do this. So, my MO, real quick, was overdosing. I OD'd. Now, to be very clear, I OD'd on prescription medications that were meant to deal with very strong mental illnesses. I'm talking my borderline personality disorder, psychosis, split personality disorder, bipolar disorder. In my family, at this time, I guess only 3 of us had medication, and most of us took multiple medications a day. I think I had like 3 pills a day. My mom had 3 or 4 pills a day, and my sister had 2 or 3 pills a day. So if you combine it at the minimums, it was about 9 pills a day. No, sorry, 7 pills a day total. My first attempt, I had waited for every medication to be refilled, and then I took every medication. I took all my medication, which would have been around 60 pills. I took all my mom's medication, which would have been around 90, and I took my sister's, which would have been at least another 60. And these are strong psychosis drugs, right? They're meant to break psychosis. They're meant to help you maintain balance. And what ends up happening is it creates a chemical imbalance in the brain. And it's very interesting because what happens is you become very tired. You're fine for about my first time I actually lasted for about 30 minutes before I started to get tired. And I did pretty much what you expect. I smiled, I told everyone I loved them, and I went to bed. I think one of the biggest signs you can ever see is if somebody out of just if someone ever says something to you that's not normal, if they tell you for no reason else they just love you and they don't do that normally, you should be concerned. That's a very big tell. But that's usually a tell that they've done it already or they're going to do it. In my case, I had already done it. I was just waiting for it to take effect. Now, I don't remember much. I remember waking up the next morning, which I don't to this day know how I woke up. I think mostly because it was my first time, so my body was able to reject it a bit. But I wasn't really fully conscious. I was awake, but I couldn't think, right? And I remember blacking out going down the stairs after I told my mom when she asked if I'd taken all the medication. She said yes, because I couldn't think, because I had to get my medication. And I blacked out on the stairs, and then I woke up in the hospital. Now, this one wasn't very serious, but the big point to talk about this one is due to my overdosing on some medications, I could no longer take those medicines anymore. They actually no longer served me a purpose, and now my body was actually weakened by it. So I was put on different medication, and I think it was about 6 to 8 months later, maybe 10 months. This is the big attempt I want to talk about, because this is the biggest reason I feel qualified to talk about this. I had just gone through my first divorce. I was 22 years old. No, I was 20. I was 20 years old, I think. I think about 20 years old. Almost 21. Just gone through my first divorce. I was homeless because my parents would not allow me to sleep in the house. I was instead allowed to sleep in my truck on their property. But even though they had a 4-bedroom house in empty bedrooms, I was not allowed in there. To be fair, this was my father's rule. Me and him do not talk anymore for multiple reasons, but this was his rule. He had decided that since I was not paying rent, I could not stay there. And at that point in my life, everything was, there was no point. I had lost my daughter in a custody case because, oddly enough, I went to college, and so I was a weekend father. That was the rule of the judge, even though I had proven with posts from her Facebook, which I was told I was not allowed to use, that she was, partying and staying in people's houses every other night. It was really rough, and I found out later that judge almost 90% of the time ruled against the father, so I had no chance to win. And the worst thing was that judge was put on the case last second. We were supposed to get another judge. And after that, knowing I would never see my daughter again, realizing that my own parents wouldn't let me live in the house, and that I was pretty much forced to sleep outside and had nothing and nobody, at that point in my life, I had just given up. So I took my medicine, which was in my glove department. It had just been refilled. I put on my music that I still remember this day of the song I was listening to. I climbed, my parents lived in the middle of the forest, so I climbed up a hill, laid down, and took all my medication. I don't remember anything after about 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I was gone. I was out. So the rest of these events actually are from my mother's viewpoint, what she saw. Apparently, at some point, I somehow struggled down the hill, across the road into their house. I was not aware of this. I did not do this consciously. I know I didn't do it consciously because the first one, I can remember telling them I took all the medication. The second one, none of what I was told is in my head. None of it is there. So I somehow walked down the hill, across the street, into their house, lay down on the sofa, and my mom, sensing something was wrong and knowing I'd already attempted once, decided we should go to the hospital. I guess at which point I stopped breathing in the car, but then I started breathing again, and they had the EMTs meet at a certain part of the road where the EMTs would meet because they couldn't really come all the way out to the house. My parents lived in the middle of nowhere, which I would never personally live myself. And apparently, they injected me with six vials of adrenaline, which isn't normal. I guess my mom said that. My mom used to be a nurse. She said that's not normal. So if anyone's out there a nurse and you want to verify that, apparently that, I'm not sure. But apparently my heart stopped multiple times. My breathing stopped, so I was actually clinically dead. Not, you know, in the words of, what is it, The Princess Bride, I was mostly dead. And apparently when they got to a certain part of the city, because it was a really weird stuff, like 3 different cities, they had another ambulance meet them there, where apparently, and now again, this is from my mom's record, not mine, that is where you would meet, pretty much that was a sign that I was going to be DOA. If you don't know what DOA means, it means dead on arrival. So she went to the hospital expecting me to be dead when I got there. Now again, I don't remember any of this. Apparently at the hospital, finally after a couple hours, they went in, I said hi, I greeted them for a few minutes, and then that was it, and then I went into a 4-day coma. After that, when I did finally awake, apparently I went into a 4-day amnesia. I had like amnesia for 4 days. Now, that's a total of almost 9 days, actually. It's about 8 to 9 days. From the point of me blacking out to when I actually recalled everything, when I was fully aware of everything, when my awareness had come back, it's about 9 days. And, I can tell you from me, all I remember is passing out on that hill and waking up in the mental ward. That's all I remember. Then, them telling me that I kicked a nurse, and I felt bad when I found out I kicked a nurse, and I apologized. It was actually an EMT I kicked. Oh no, it was a nurse, I think, at the hospital. The weird thing is that my body was in autopilot. Like, my brain was in autopilot. I know for a fact, I was not aware. Something happened where my body kind of regressed itself to the stage of a child. To this day, I don't know what happened. Because again, it's not in my head. I still, to this day, suffer memory problems where I have short-term memory loss at times, where I just can't remember things. And I do know that the fact that I had no brain damage was amazing. The fact that I lived with a second overdose of extremely strong medications, right after the first overdose was, in and of itself, a miracle, if you want to call it that. However, I dealt with depression for a long time, and even after that, I dealt with depression, and I only would have attempted suicide one more time, and it really was a half-hearted attempt, to be honest, so I don't like to call it an attempt, more of a, that one was honestly, I did overdose, but I did it more as a, look at me, I'm so sad. In other words, a bitch move, let's just say that. I didn't really want to die at my third attempt. I just didn't care as much. It was worth the attention was worth the risk. There we go. That's the best way to say it. And I did overdose. I did end up in the hospital. They did give me Epicat, and I did throw it all up. Oh my goodness. I still, to this day, even though I wasn't fully aware, I remember that feeling. But it was like a dream, right? That was the weird thing. The third time it was like a dream. So, third time wasn't nearly as bad. I didn't take near as much medication. And I did tell somebody right away. So, that one, honestly, third one was an attention grabber. After that, I never did it again. I was just done with it. However, I would continue to cut for a couple of years until my best friend's mom pretty much gave me the stern talking I needed for a long time. I have a lot of life problems. I have a lot of problems with my past. Things that I try to move past, but it's not always easy to move past. But one thing I want to do with my life is I want to do what I can to reach out to those who suffered from the same thing I did and try to give them a way to hold on, try to give them something to realize that they're not alone. The biggest problem with depression and feeling the way I felt, which I know a lot of people feel when they are in that state of mind, is nobody understands how I feel. You feel like nobody actually has the ability to empathize with you. You feel alone. And that's another purpose of this channel, so that those who are at that stage in their life realize they don't feel alone and they have somebody they can talk to. It's a tough road to go across. There's a lot of holes on the way. But one thing I want to say in this video about myself, if you put something in your mind as a goal to keep yourself going, regardless of what that goal is. For me, my goal was at the end was to prove everybody wrong. To show everybody who thought I was a loser that I would be successful and I would make it. I would succeed what I want. I would succeed and get what I wanted. And when I was 22, 21, I went to university. And when I was I was 22. 22, almost 33, I went to university. When I was 24, 25, I came to Japan. And I've been in Japan now for 8 years. So I've been here since I was I came when I was 26. I've been here since I turned 26. I'm now 34 years old. The fact is, I succeeded. I got married. I have 2 beautiful kids. I have a house. My wife and I fight quite often, but it's part of life. But the thing is that I was able to succeed and pull through. This doesn't mean that these thoughts never go away. I will always have the thoughts I have. And throughout this channel, I will dive into more things that are very deep and very dark. And the reason why is because people need to know they can talk about things. If you hold these emotions and if you hold your feelings in, all that ends up is you either let them consume you and you act upon them. You need to learn how to control them. You need to learn how to handle them. And that is what I want to use this channel for. Because I definitely had a lot more issues than just suicide. I had a lot of problems and I learned how to overcome it. I've learned how to work with them and how to live with it. And I'm at a stage in my life now where I'm no longer on medication. I am very careful how I live. I don't drink alcohol. I keep certain forms of media out of my house. Certain things are not allowed, and I definitely watch my kids what they watch because I know that they too are prone to what I had. And so again, I'm going to be building up with this channel lots of skills and things that you can use if you struggle from these, or things you can help if you have a child or again a loved one who struggles from these. With that said, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I will get back to you guys. This is The Dark Side of Life, signing out.